The Golden Cage. The autumn rain streaked down the floor-to-ceiling windows of the Mercer estate, perched high above the glittering Seattle skyline. Nathan Mercer stood in his home office, watching the city below as droplets raced each other down the glass. At 42, he had everything a man could want. His tech company had revolutionized cloud computing, making him one of the youngest billionaires in the Pacific Northwest. His mansion overlooked Puget Sound. His garage housed a collection of vintage sports cars. Yet tonight, as the rain fell and the
I
city
can't
lights
believe we
blurred into
finally made
streaks
it
of
here.
gold and
It's
silver,
perfect, just like
Nathan
I
felt a
imagined.
restlessness
Too many
he could
more.
not name. In the kitchen downstairs, Victoria Mercer hummed softly as she prepared dinner. At 38, she still possessed the gentle beauty that had first captured Nathan's attention 12 years ago at a medical conference in Boston. Her auburn hair was pulled back in a simple twist, and her green eyes sparkled with the warmth that made her beloved by every child who walked into her pediatric practice. Victoria had never sought the spotlight that came with being married to Nathan Mercer. She preferred the quiet satisfaction of healing sick children, of making a difference one small patient at a time. Their marriage had been built on mutual respect and genuine affection. They had met when Nathan was still building his company from a cramped apartment, surviving on instant noodles and ambition. Victoria had been completing her residency, working 20-hour shifts and dreaming of opening a practice that served underprivileged communities. They had fallen in love over late-night conversations about changing the world, each in their own way. When Nathan's company went public and the money started flowing in, Victoria had remained grounded, insisting they use their wealth for good. Together, they had funded 3 children's hospitals and countless scholarship programs. But success had changed Nathan in ways Victoria tried not to acknowledge. The humble entrepreneur who once celebrated small victories with pizza and cheap wine had become a man who measured his worth in stock prices and acquisitions. He traveled constantly, attending tech conferences in Tokyo, investor meetings in London, and product launches in New York. Victoria understood that his work demanded such dedication, but she missed the man who used to come home excited to hear about her day, who remembered that she liked tulips better than roses, who would cancel meetings just to watch the sunset with her. The evening that would alter their lives forever began innocuously enough. Nathan had agreed to attend a gallery opening in downtown Seattle, an event supporting local artists that Victoria had been looking forward to for weeks. She wore a navy dress that Nathan had once said brought out her eyes, though he barely glanced at her as they climbed into the car. His attention was fixed on his phone, fingers flying across the screen as he responded to messages from his executive team. The gallery was housed in a converted warehouse, all exposed brick and polished concrete floors. Abstract paintings hung on white walls, and servers circulated with champagne and canapes. Victoria moved through the crowd with practiced ease, genuinely interested in the art and the stories behind each piece. Nathan followed, shaking hands with donors and business associates, his smile bright but his mind elsewhere. Then Jasmine Laurent walked in, and the temperature in the room seemed to shift. She was striking in a way that commanded attention without demanding it. Her dark hair fell in waves past her shoulders, and her black dress was simple but perfectly cut, elegant without trying too hard. Jasmine was an art dealer from Paris, recently relocated to Seattle to open a West Coast branch of her prestigious gallery. She moved through the crowd with confidence, stopping to examine each painting with genuine appreciation, her expressive hands gesturing as she discussed technique and emotion with the artists. Nathan noticed her immediately. He told himself it was purely professional interest. After all, he had been considering investing in the art world, diversifying his portfolio beyond technology. When their mutual friend, gallery owner Thomas Bryden, introduced them, Nathan felt a jolt of something he had not experienced in years. Jasmine's handshake was firm, her smile knowing, her eyes intelligent and slightly amused, as if she could see right through his carefully constructed persona. They talked about art, about the intersection of creativity and commerce, about the risk of investing in beauty rather than algorithms. Jasmine challenged his assumptions, questioned his metrics for success, made him defend positions he had never thought to examine. It was exhilarating. For the first time in months, Nathan felt truly engaged in a conversation, truly seen as more than just a source of capital or influence. Victoria watched from across the room, a glass of sparkling water in her hand. She saw the way Nathan leaned in when Jasmine spoke, the way his face became animated in a manner she had not witnessed in ages. A cold finger of worry traced down her spine, but she pushed it away. Nathan was allowed to have interesting conversations. She was being paranoid, probably hormonal. She had just discovered that morning that she was pregnant, a secret she had been saving to share with Nathan over a quiet dinner at home. The evening progressed, and Nathan found himself gravitating back to Jasmine again and again. They discussed her gallery's upcoming exhibition, a collection of contemporary pieces exploring themes of isolation in the digital age. Nathan found the irony delicious. He offered to sponsor the exhibition, a generous sum that would ensure its success. Jasmine accepted with grace, suggesting they meet for coffee to discuss the details. It was innocent, Nathan told himself. Purely business. Victoria drove home that night while Nathan sat in the passenger seat, unusually quiet. She tried to engage him in conversation about the art they had seen, about the talented young painter whose work had moved her to tears. Nathan responded with distracted monosyllables, his mind replaying conversations with Jasmine, the sound of her laughter, the way she had looked at him as if he were fascinating rather than merely wealthy. That night, as Victoria slept beside him, Nathan lay awake, staring at the ceiling. He told himself nothing had happened. He had simply met an interesting woman and had a stimulating conversation. There was no harm in that. But deep in his chest, in a place he did not want to examine too closely, something had awakened. Something dangerous. Something that whispered promises of excitement and passion and feeling alive again. He did not know that this single evening had set in motion a sequence of events that would test everything he thought he knew about love, loyalty, and the true cost of desire. He did not know that the choices he made in the coming weeks would lead him to a reckoning that would shatter his carefully constructed world. And he certainly did not know that Victoria, the woman sleeping peacefully beside him, carried not just his child but a strength he had long underestimated. The rain continued to fall on Seattle, washing the city clean, while inside the Mercer estate, the first cracks appeared in a marriage that had once seemed unbreakable, secrets and shadows. The coffee meeting happened 3 days later at a boutique cafe in Pioneer Square, tucked away from the main thoroughfares where Nathan was less likely to be recognized. He told himself it was a business meeting, nothing more. He told Victoria he had an early investor call and left the house before she woke, avoiding her questioning eyes. Jasmine arrived exactly on time, dressed in tailored gray slacks and a cream silk blouse, her hair pulled back to reveal elegant cheekbones. She greeted Nathan with a warm smile and ordered an espresso, black. They talked about the exhibition for perhaps 20 minutes before the conversation drifted to other topics. Jasmine spoke of growing up in Lyon, of her father who had been a struggling painter and her mother who taught literature at the university. She described how she had learned to see the world through the lens of beauty and meaning, how every object told a story if you knew how to listen. Nathan found himself sharing things he rarely discussed. He talked about the pressure of maintaining his empire, the loneliness of being constantly scrutinized, the way success had isolated him from genuine human connection. Jasmine listened without judgment, her dark eyes reflecting understanding rather than the sympathy he had come to resent from others. When their coffee cups were empty, neither wanted to leave. Nathan suggested lunch. Jasmine agreed without hesitation. That first meeting stretched into 3 hours. When Nathan finally returned to his office, his assistant remarked that he seemed unusually energized. He was. For the first time in years, he felt like someone had truly listened to him, had seen beyond the billionaire facade to the person underneath. The meetings continued. Once a week at first, then twice, then nearly every day. They were always in different locations, always with the pretense of discussing the exhibition or potential art acquisitions. Nathan convinced himself that their connection was purely intellectual, a meeting of minds rather than anything inappropriate. He did not examine too closely why his heart raced when he saw Jasmine's name on his phone, or why he found himself thinking about her observations during board meetings, or why he had started paying more attention to his appearance before their encounters. At home, Victoria noticed the changes. Nathan seemed distracted, distant. He came to bed late, claiming work emergencies. He traveled more frequently, though the destination seemed less related to his actual business interests. When she tried to talk to him about her pregnancy, he smiled and said all the right words, but his eyes were elsewhere. The enthusiastic father-to-be she had imagined did not materialize. Instead, Nathan treated her announcement like another item on his checklist, acknowledged but not deeply felt. Victoria's medical training had taught her to observe carefully, to notice small symptoms that indicated larger problems. She saw how Nathan checked his phone constantly, how he smiled at messages he quickly dismissed when she entered the room. She noticed new restaurants on their credit card statements, places they had never visited together. She heard him laugh during late-night phone calls in his study, a sound of genuine delight she had not heard directed at her in months. The suspicions grew like shadows at sunset, slowly at first, then consuming everything. Victoria confided in her closest friend, Dr. Rachel Kim, a colleague from the hospital. Rachel listened with concern, then gently suggested what Victoria had been trying not to think. Perhaps Nathan was having an affair. Perhaps the distance between them was not just about work stress or impending fatherhood. Perhaps there was someone else. Victoria wanted to confront Nathan immediately, to demand the truth. But something held her back. She needed to be certain. She needed evidence. The lawyer in her, the part that had watched her parents' messy divorce as a child, knew that accusations without proof would only be denied and dismissed. So she began to watch more carefully, to document the inconsistencies, to build a case. Meanwhile, Nathan's relationship with Jasmine had crossed lines he had sworn never to approach. It happened gradually, then suddenly. A hand held a moment too long. Conversations that drifted into personal territory, sharing fears and dreams and disappointments. The first kiss came after an evening at Jasmine's gallery, surrounded by paintings of fractured hearts and broken connections. Nathan had been explaining why a particular piece moved him, and Jasmine had stepped closer, her perfume intoxicating, her lips impossibly near. He told himself to pull away. He did not. After that, the affair became physical. They met at a discreet hotel on the waterfront, a place where privacy could be purchased and questions were not asked. Nathan felt alive in a way he had forgotten was possible. Jasmine made him feel young again, adventurous, unencumbered by responsibility and expectation. With her, he was not the billionaire philanthropist or the tech visionary. He was simply Nathan, a man who laughed and felt and existed in the moment. The guilt came in waves, usually late at night when he returned home to find Victoria asleep, her hand resting protectively on her growing belly. In those moments, Nathan hated himself. He thought about ending things with Jasmine, about recommitting to his marriage, about being the man Victoria deserved. But then morning would come, and with it another message from Jasmine, another opportunity to feel that intoxicating rush, and his resolve would crumble. Victoria's investigation yielded results faster than she expected. She hired a private investigator, a woman recommended by Rachel who specialized in domestic cases. The investigator was thorough and discreet. Within 2 weeks, Victoria had photographs. Nathan and Jasmine entering a hotel together. Nathan and Jasmine kissing in a parking garage. Nathan and Jasmine walking hand in hand through a park on the outskirts of the city, far from anyone who might recognize them. The evidence sat in a manila envelope on Victoria's desk at the hospital. She could not bring herself to open it at home, could not risk Nathan finding it. For 3 days, the envelope remained sealed while Victoria wrestled with what to do. Part of her wanted to confront Nathan immediately, to throw the photographs in his face and demand an explanation. Another part wanted to pretend she had never looked, to maintain the illusion of their marriage for the sake of the baby growing inside her. On the 4th day, Victoria finally opened the envelope during her lunch break. The photographs were clear and damning. She studied Nathan's face in each image, searching for some sign of remorse or conflict. What she saw instead was happiness. Pure, unguarded joy. The realization hit her like a physical blow. Nathan was not struggling with guilt or torn between two women. He had chosen. He had chosen Jasmine. Victoria's hands shook as she gathered the photographs and tucked them back into the envelope. Tears blurred her vision, but she refused to let them fall. She had patients waiting, children who needed her steady hands and calm voice. She could not fall apart now. She took several deep breaths, composed herself, and returned to work. But something had shifted inside her. The woman who had always believed in forgiveness and second chances was gone, replaced by someone harder, someone who understood that some betrayals could not be forgiven. That evening, Nathan came home late again, claiming a dinner meeting with investors from Singapore. Victoria said nothing, simply nodded and returned to the medical journal she had been reading. Nathan felt relieved by her lack of questions, interpreting her quiet acceptance as trust. He did not see the way her jaw tightened when he kissed her forehead, or notice the careful distance she maintained as he changed for bed. The annual Children's Hospital Charity Gala was scheduled for the following Saturday. It was the biggest fundraising event of the year, and both Nathan and Victoria were expected to attend. Nathan had tried to cancel, inventing a conflict, but Victoria had insisted with unusual firmness. They had been planning this event for months, she reminded him. Major donors were expecting them. He could not possibly miss it. What Nathan did not know was that Victoria had also invited Jasmine Laurent. The art dealer had been added to the guest list as a potential donor, someone interested in supporting pediatric arts therapy programs. Jasmine had accepted the invitation graciously, unaware that the hostess knew exactly who she was and what she had been doing with the hostess's husband. Victoria spent the week preparing. She chose her dress carefully, a deep emerald green that complemented her coloring and accommodated her pregnancy without drawing attention to it. She rehearsed what she would say, how she would stand, where she would position herself for maximum impact. This was not about revenge, she told herself. This was about truth. This was about refusing to be invisible in her own life. The night of the gala, Victoria looked stunning. Even Nathan, distracted and guilty, noticed. He complimented her appearance with genuine appreciation, and for a moment, Victoria saw a flash of the man she had married. It made what was coming both harder and easier. Harder because she remembered what they had once been. Easier because she knew what they had become. The ballroom of the Fairmont Olympic Hotel glittered with crystal chandeliers and the jewels of Seattle's elite. Doctors and philanthropists mingled with tech executives and artists. A string quartet played softly in the corner while servers circulated with champagne and hors d'oeuvres. Nathan and Victoria moved through the crowd together, the perfect power couple, smiling and thanking donors for their generosity. Then Jasmine arrived, and the careful equilibrium shattered. She wore black, simple and devastating, her confidence evident in every step. Nathan's face went pale when he saw her. He had not expected her here, in his world, so close to Victoria. Jasmine spotted him across the room and smiled, a small, private expression that spoke of shared secrets. Victoria watched the exchange with clinical detachment. She saw everything. Nathan's panic. Jasmine's pleasure at surprising him. The invisible thread that connected them across the crowded room. She waited, allowing the moment to stretch and tighten, and then she moved. Walking up to Jasmine with a smile that did not reach her eyes, Victoria extended her hand. The confrontation that would change everything was about to begin. The reckoning. Jasmine accepted Victoria's handshake with practiced poise, her expression friendly but cautious. She had researched Nathan's wife before accepting the gala invitation, knew about her work at the Children's Hospital, her reputation for compassion and brilliance. But nothing had prepared her for the cold intelligence in Victoria's green eyes, the way those eyes seemed to strip away pretense and see directly into her soul. "Jasmine Laurent, how wonderful to finally meet you," Victoria said, her voice smooth as silk and sharp as a scalpel. "Nathan has mentioned you so often lately. Your gallery's exhibition on digital isolation, was it not? How fascinating that someone would explore loneliness while actively creating it in others." The words hung in the air, their meaning clear to anyone paying attention. Jasmine's smile faltered for just a moment, but she recovered quickly. "Mrs. Mercer, thank you for the invitation. Your work with pediatric arts therapy is inspiring. I hope my attendance here might lead to a meaningful partnership." "Oh, I believe your partnership with my family has already become quite meaningful," Victoria replied, her voice never rising above conversational volume. "Tell me, Jasmine, do you make it a habit of partnering with married men, or is my husband a special case?" Several nearby guests turned, sensing drama. Nathan materialized at Victoria's elbow, his face ashen. "Victoria, perhaps we should discuss this privately." Victoria turned to her husband, and for the first time since discovering his betrayal, she allowed her anger to show. It blazed in her eyes like green fire, controlled but devastating. "Privately? Like how you have been conducting your affair privately? Like how you have been lying to me privately for the past 3 months while I carry your child?" The word "child" landed like a bomb. Nathan's eyes widened. He had known about the pregnancy, of course, but hearing Victoria announce it here, in this context, made it suddenly, terrifyingly real. Around them, conversations stopped. Phones appeared, discreetly recording. This was Seattle high society, and scandal spread faster than any virus. Jasmine's composure cracked. "I did not know," she whispered, her eyes darting between Nathan and Victoria. "He said the marriage was over, that you were separating, that it was just a matter of paperwork." "Did he?" Victoria's laugh was bitter. "How convenient. And you believed him? A man who would lie to his wife would never lie to his mistress, is that your logic?" Nathan tried to intervene, his voice desperate. "Victoria, please. Not here. Let's go somewhere and talk about this rationally." "Rationally?" Victoria's voice finally rose, cutting through the ballroom like a knife. "You want to discuss rationality? After you have spent months sneaking around, lying to my face, touching another woman while I sleep beside you, while I grow your child inside me? You want rationality now?" The room had gone completely silent. Even the string quartet had stopped playing. Every eye was fixed on the unfolding drama. Rachel Kim pushed through the crowd, trying to reach Victoria, but Victoria held up a hand, stopping her. This was her moment, her reckoning, and she would see it through. Jasmine, to her credit, had gone pale. Whether from genuine remorse or fear of public exposure, Victoria neither knew nor cared. "I am truly sorry," Jasmine said quietly. "I did not intend to destroy a marriage. I will leave Seattle. I will close my gallery here. You will never see me again." "How noble," Victoria said. "But this is not about you, Jasmine. You are merely a symptom of a much larger disease. My husband's inability to appreciate what he has. His constant need for validation and excitement. His fundamental selfishness." She turned back to Nathan, and everyone in the ballroom leaned forward, sensing the climax approaching. Victoria reached into her evening bag and pulled out a single photograph. It showed Nathan and Jasmine kissing outside the waterfront hotel, their bodies pressed together, their faces showing unmistakable passion. "I have dozens more," Victoria said, her voice steady now, almost clinical. "Enough to ensure that any divorce proceedings go exactly as I wish. Enough to make certain that our child is protected from your recklessness. But that is for lawyers and mediators. Right now, I have only 2 words for you, Nathan." The room held its collective breath. Nathan looked at his wife, at the woman he had betrayed, and saw for the first time the full measure of what he was losing. Not just a spouse, but a partner. Not just a companion, but his moral compass. Not just love, but respect, trust, and the foundation of his entire life. Victoria's voice rang out clear and final, 2 words that would echo through Seattle society for years to come, 2 words that would be quoted in divorce filings and whispered in boardrooms, 2 words that carried the weight of shattered vows and broken promises. I'm done. The simplicity of the statement made it devastating. No screaming, no tears, no dramatic exit. Just 2 words that communicated absolute finality. Victoria turned and walked toward the exit, her head high, her steps sure. Rachel immediately followed, as did several other friends, forming a protective circle around her. Nathan stood frozen, the photograph still in his hand, his world crumbling around him. Jasmine touched his arm tentatively, but he shook her off, the scales finally falling from his eyes. What had he done? For what? For excitement? For ego? For the illusion of reclaiming lost youth? The guests began to disperse, conversations erupting in excited whispers. Phones buzzed with texts and social media posts. By morning, the story would be everywhere. Nathan Mercer, the golden boy of Seattle tech, exposed as an adulterer at his own charity event. The irony was not lost on anyone. In the weeks that followed, Victoria moved out of the Mercer estate and into a townhouse near the hospital. She filed for divorce with a legal team that left no room for negotiation. The settlement would be substantial, but Victoria insisted it was not about the money. She established a trust for their unborn child, ensured her continued involvement with the children's hospital, and demanded complete custody with limited visitation rights for Nathan pending his completion of counseling. Nathan's business suffered. Several major investors pulled out, uncomfortable with the publicity. His board of directors suggested he step down temporarily, let the scandal blow over. He refused at first, then realized he had no choice. The company he had built from nothing no longer wanted him at the helm. Jasmine did leave Seattle, returning to Paris with her reputation damaged but not destroyed. She sent Victoria a letter of apology that went unanswered. Some bridges, once burned, leave ashes too deep for any rebuilding. 6 months later, Victoria gave birth to a healthy baby girl she named Grace. She sent Nathan a photograph and an invitation to meet his daughter. He arrived at the hospital with flowers and tears, begging for forgiveness, for another chance, for some way to repair what he had broken. Victoria listened patiently, then shook her head. "You can be Grace's father," she said softly. "You can be present in her life, guide her, love her. But you cannot be my husband again. Some trust, once shattered, cannot be repaired. Some choices have permanent consequences." Nathan held his daughter for the first time, feeling the weight of what his selfishness had cost. Grace looked up at him with eyes that matched her mother's, green and clear and full of innocent trust. He made a silent vow to be better for her, to be the man he should have been for Victoria. As for Victoria, she built a new life. She threw herself into her work, expanded the pediatric arts therapy program, wrote papers on childhood trauma recovery. She dated eventually, carefully, but found herself in no rush. She had Grace, her work, her friends, her purpose. She had discovered that she did not need a man to complete her. She was already whole. Years later, when Grace asked about the night her parents' marriage ended, Victoria told her a simplified version. "Sometimes people make choices that hurt others," she explained. "And sometimes the bravest thing you can do is walk away from what hurts you, even when you still love them." "Did you love Daddy?" Grace asked. "Very much," Victoria admitted. "But I loved myself and you more. And that made all the difference." The story of Nathan and Victoria became a cautionary tale in Seattle society. A reminder that wealth could not buy integrity, that success could not substitute for character, that every choice carried consequences. Nathan rebuilt his reputation slowly, through genuine change and consistent action, but he never remarried. Some part of him remained forever in that ballroom, watching Victoria walk away, understanding too late what he had destroyed. And Victoria, holding her daughter's hand as they walked through the park on a sunny afternoon, felt something she had not expected. Peace. The nightmare had ended. The healing had begun. And ahead lay possibilities she was only beginning to imagine, a future written by her own hand, no longer defined by anyone else's choices. The rain that had started this story had long since stopped. Seattle sparkled clean and new under clear skies. And Victoria Mercer, no longer shackled to a man who could not see her worth, was finally, completely free.